afternoon, everybody. As you know, my name is Whitney Carey, and today I'll be giving a presentation on the concept of perception. I hope that this is interesting and you are able to take away any pieces of information and apply this to your daily life. So what exactly is perception? Perception is the way in which we select, organize, and interpret the people, events, objects, and situations that we encounter every day. So why is perception so important? Well, as I was doing my research for this presentation, I came across a quote by Bharath Vishal, and he stated that perception is important because it's the physiological process through which everything in this world is interpreted and understood. And I feel like that really kind of summed up perception and the importance of it all in one sentence. Perception is also important because we use it to make everyday decisions, even those that we're not aware we're making, about not only what we're noticing and thinking about the people and places that we encounter, but also how we feel about them. So for example, having a negative perception can lead us to dismiss ideas or people and judge them as unimportant. A positive perception, on the other hand, can lead us to pay more attention and show an interest in an idea or person and to be more receptive to new ideas. So how exactly are perceptions created? Perception is actually a three-step process, which includes selection, organization, and interpretation. I found and watched a video presentation that was done by Michelle Nuss, and she outlined and explained the three different steps in the process. The first step is selection. We are subjected to so much information on a daily basis that we cannot process it all. So our brains will select the information that is most important to us at the time. So for example, if you're driving down the street and you see a light turn red, you're going to realize that information and act accordingly. Same as reading an email from your boss might be more important than checking your Facebook account. So after we select the information that we deem as important, we then organize it. Generally, that organization is done by what needs to be done first or what deserves the most attention. Once we have organized the information, we can then interpret and think about how we feel about the situation or idea, and we can then respond to it. So going back to the red traffic light, you see the light turns red, you organize that information as important, and then to interpret it, you stop at the red light. So as you can see here, perception is greatly influenced in our communications with others as well. Kind of going back to the email from your boss, that communication, of course, is greatly important. Perceptions are also created and influenced by our family and friends. Our greatest influences actually happen when we're very young as children. Our perceptions are actually passed on to us from our parents and other family members, and as we learn and grow, we adapt some of them as our own. And so these perceptions that we get to early on are the basis on which we will develop our own opinions and ideas. For example, we decide what is right or what's wrong. But as we get older, the perceptions that we have will begin to change as we make friends, start new jobs, meet new coworkers, and experience different things independently of those who we started out with. And so how can our experiences affect our own personal perceptions? Our own experiences play a huge role in our own personal perceptions. For example, a person who is bitten by a dog as a small child or sometimes even as an adult can then have a negative perception of dogs when it could have previously been positive. So while it would be incorrect to think that this about every single dog, the perception to this person that was bitten could be that all dogs bite, or maybe all dogs shouldn't be trusted. So as you can see there, our perceptions of our experiences can directly affect the opinions that we carry throughout our lives. Our perceptions can also influence other people. As a parent, we can unknowingly, and sometimes knowingly as well, transfer our perceptions and opinions to our children. We teach them what's right and wrong based on how we grew up and the perceptions we were given. We also teach them what things not to do or maybe to do, and how to feel about certain things like lying or stealing. Obviously, we teach our children that those things are bad. But as a friend or a coworker, we can also have an influence on them with our perceptions, and they can also influence us as well. So when it comes to our perception affecting other people, I kind of think back to grade school, junior high, where you see the group of popular kids, or maybe you were the popular kid, and other kids would try to think of, well, what can I do to fit in? What can I do to make them perceive me as being cool or acceptable into their group? It's kind of where this all comes back to. Those perceptions directly influence everything in our lives and who we interact with. So can we actually change our perceptions? And the great thing about perception is that we made it up, so we can change our perceptions. But we have to be willing to do so. Again, through my research, I came across an article that was written by Tanya Katsos, and she stated that we can change our perceptions by recognizing our perceptions are what we made them, and that they are not set in stone. So being open to new ideas and changes, even if we might not agree with them or like them at the time, can actually help us change our perception of several things. We can also help change our perceptions by doing independent research on different topics or even world events that we may not be familiar with but kind of have an opinion about. And that independent research can provide insight and help us come to a more informed opinion and possibly changing our perceptions because of that. So the one thing to always keep in mind is that our initial perceptions about anything can be wrong. But by being open to new ideas, meeting new people, doing our own research, we can realize that our initial perceptions were wrong, and then we can also choose to change how we feel about the idea, the event, person, or situation that we are currently looking at. So who exactly is right when our perceptions clash? Everybody will have a different perception about the same thing. That's one of the great things that makes us all different, is that we all select different pieces of information, organize them differently, and interpret and respond differently. So it doesn't always mean, though, that one person is right or wrong. Our cartoon here, for example, from each person's perspective, they're both right. Doesn't necessarily mean that any one person's wrong. It all comes down to your perception and how you choose to look at the situation. But we should always be mindful of other people's perceptions, keep an open mind to others' perceptions, and remember that our perceptions are not the only ones that count. Okay. So some important things to remember about perception is that it is a process. We select the information we use, we organize the information by its importance or relevance, and we then interpret and respond to the information that we have collected. Perception is also ever-changing. Most of the time, we will not carry the same perceptions throughout our entire lives. We will make changes to them. But our perceptions are created when we are young. Perceptions are influenced by others, as well as the experiences that we encounter. We can also choose to change our perceptions if we're willing to do so by keeping an open mind and being open to research and different ideas. And lastly, we should also be mindful of the perceptions of others. Okay, so I hope you all have enjoyed this presentation here about perception and maybe learned a little bit and kept a few things in mind that you can take back and use in your daily lives. Thanks, guys.